Happy holidays and welcome to a special edition of the Comic Madness Variety Hour. Frank looks very surly that he's not doing the intro.
It's not surly. I just have some anxiety. This is the first time I think
This is where Frank
that
breaks.
I've been on that I
you
have
haven't
not done the intro. So
Okay. Do you want to do a real quick one?
no,
Quick? Okay.
no.
So this is our special 0.5 for the holidays because we're going to do a little year in review. So
Year in review. Yes, that's correct.
without a bit ado, I'm going to ask these jerks some questions. They're going to answer them, and then we're going to do our books of the year.
These
Okay.
jerks, what jerks? I didn't get introduced.
Only handsome gentlemen.
Lou is still here.
I'm
Yeah,
still
Lou's
here.
still here.
Geekboypress.com.
So, you guys, with the great year in comics, a lot of highs, some lows,
Yeah.
a little bit of sadness with the people who have died and everything.
True. Stand by.
Do you think this has been the
R.I.P.
best year in comics that you can remember?
The best. Wow, that's a hard question.
Yeah, that
Jesus.
is a hard question.
There's been some solid stuff, but I mean, that's every year. There's good and bad.
There's always good and bad.
The
I will
best?
say that the industry on a whole was definitely at a high. I think over the past couple years than it has
Well, you know
in
why
a
that is.
long time. Why is that?
Movies, man. Movies.
The movies, yeah.
These movies didn't
Yeah, but
exist.
now the indies are just as high, and they're
Right,
not
the
making.
But
indies.
again, think about everybody making those indie books because half of those people are storyboarding their own movie or TV
Right.
show. That's why they're making those books. As we're getting some amazing creativity in these books. Image is firing on all cylinders. You could throw a rock and hit an amazing Image book, right? I'm just saying in general.
Well, that's supporting then that you think that it is one of the best, if not the best years, right?
Sure.
Sure,
I'm
that's
still
where
alive.
you're going.
I'm still kicking. So yes, we're
I
doing
don't
good.
know if I'm not too
It's hard
sure.
to
It
say
is hard
best.
to say, but I will say it's definitely been a strong year overall, and
We've
in
been
the
excited about a
span-
lot of books.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of amazing books this
Yeah.
year, a lot of relaunches, a lot of great number ones. Again, like I said, Image is amazing these days. The advent of writers like Donny Cates and Tom King taking over their respective companies, DC and
Yes.
Marvel. I mean, come on. You know, even strong guys like Jason Aaron from Marvel. You know, he can be hit or miss these days, but yo, Conan 2019, come
yeah,
on.
they had some interesting announcements too. They're doing that Chip Zdarsky like Marvel age. You see that? It looks really cool.
Oh,
where, like,
right,
they're
'cause he's
going to
replacing the
actually
2-in-1.
age for It's going to be a series where they age each decade.
Right.
So like,
yeah,
they
that's kind of
actually-
neat. The Spidey thing, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've definitely been like, I would say probably more hyped on things than I have been in the past. I don't know if I would say it's the best, but I will definitely say it's been a strong.
It's been a great year, yeah.
Yeah.
Great year for comics.
All right, with the industry changing and people going to creator owned, do you think Marvel and DC will ever change?
That's a great question.
They need to. I don't know if they will.
They definitely need
They
to.
definitely need
More
to.
so, probably Marvel seems to take less chances than DC. I think
Mhm.
that's pretty evident with DC doing the whole, Black Label line.
Right.
You know, they're trying new stuff out. They have that subscription service that I think they're gonna kind of maneuver the comics into. We haven't quite seen it yet. Was that DC? You know, like with that has the Titans show on it.
Sure,
and
the
all
DC
that.
streaming service, yeah.
So they are trying new things.
Yeah.
I think Marvel's the one that drives the bus. It drives the industry, and it basically does not ever. It always seems to be like crashing the bus. Like it's like
It's-
this is
that
how
was
we're
the
fucking
follow-up
doing
question.
it.
Is
Yeah, I'm bummed about that because you guys love DC, whereas I
Yeah.
love Marvel.
Okay.
And I'm very apologetic for a lot of the bullshit they
Well,
put out
that's the
this year.
thing, yeah.
Hasn't been a great year for Marvel. There's
No.
been some shining moments, but overall, I love X-Men. X-Men's been taking a shit this year.
Yeah.
And I'm so sad by that. I don't know why. It should be good. You should put your top names on those books. So
What's your follow up?
is
You
that
seem so
does
excited.
Marvel need to like not be the top dog anymore, and who can take them over?
Good.
No, you're good.
I was just
You
gonna
can
say it's always Marvel and DC. I mean, I'd like to see that change. I don't think we ever will. Especially with the movies, with the characters, you're always gonna have that licensing. You're always have that movie money thrown at the characters.
Right.
So, I mean, I'll bet you we're gonna get some amazing X-Men FF stuff now that they got the rights back.
I think the only way that we see Marvel change the way that they do things is if they no longer have the market share, which is primarily what they've had for years now. DC is always close behind, but I think as soon as it switches and DC is like the top dog and they're selling the most books, then Marvel is going to have to change. And I think that has to do a lot with like just higher ups.
We might
I
get
think
another
that-
Marvel
you-
Knights resurgence.
do you
Exactly,
think
yeah,
That
that
would be amazing.
Marvel cares about book sales though? or do they only care about their billion-dollar
Not by
movies?
the paper stock. Are you
Yeah,
fucking kidding me? Come
I
on.
get the feeling that I think some of the people care, but I think a lot of the higher ups don't necessarily care about the comics, or at least the paper versions of them. They don't seem to.
Which
And
is a
this is-
shame. I mean, you got some amazing characters.
Right.
They almost shit all over them.
I think it's evident by, like you said, the paper stock. I think it's the creative teams. There's very rarely a Marvel where you're like, oh, this team's going to be awesome. They basically just have a good writer or they have a good artist. It's not like DC or independent where you're like, the team's going to be awesome.
See, but again, you
And then-
guys are kissing DC's ass because you love them so
But no,
much.
we're talking
and I
about
do.
indie more.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you can admit that in Marvel, when something comes out, it's some guy you never heard of. He just happened to hit it really well.
Right. So what was the last, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I'm ready.
Lou,
Lou on the
but
spot.
what was
I
the
can do
last
it.
time you saw a creative team
that I
that
was
Marvel
excited
had?
for?
Yeah.
Perfect. Easy. Avengers, number one. With
Okay.
Aaron and Ed McGuinness. Two of
Okay.
my favorite
Ed
creators.
McGuinness?
Yes, Ed McGuinness. He's one of the best artists out.
Okay.
And it sucks
That's fair.
because, he can't keep up with the monthly book.
Yeah,
We all
but,
knew
like,
that.
would
He
you-
is so solid.
Are you
I
more
love his
excited
stuff.
about Ed McGuinness and Jason Aaron, or say,
Go ahead. You can
Uh,
say any DC
yeah,
team,
no,
and I'll
like
be
some-
like,
no,
yeah, they're
like
clones of somebody else.
some random indie book?
It depends what it is. That's a really hard thing to say. I mean, there's indie books you can't even compare to Marvel and DC because they're doing their own thing. They're not going to follow the cookie cutter
That's true. They can do whatever they want.
formula. You know what I mean? Like I would never compare Image or anything else to.
You got excited when you saw Jason Aaron writing the
Hell
Avengers?
yeah, you kidding me? Come on.
I was
Jason
excited for
Aaron.
it, but it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I want to like it more than I
Right,
do,
yeah.
and I'm like, come on, guys, pull it
I
together.
feel like I don't know what it is. He just doesn't have a voice for it, or if he's being held back. But it definitely doesn't
Who
feel
knows?
like him.
It's
Yeah.
their flagship title, so I'm
Right.
sure he has some edicts. He's like, well, you have to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So make this shit
But
cool or else.
Jason Aaron is very character specific, I feel. Like
So
his
as a
best
team book.
his
yeah.
best run was when he was writing, was it Wolverine?
He did
Insane in the
Wolverine.
Brain, where it was just about him going insane, which was great. And then he wrote Thor, which obviously
Oh my
Well,
God,
that's his
Thor
best
is gonna go
run.
down
And
as
then
one of the
as
best
soon
books
as-
of all time.
Yeah.
he introduced more characters in the Thor. I felt it got worse.
No, I don't think so.
I think yeah,
Not
the
at all.
opposite.
I think
Oh,
he's
see.
expanding the universe.
I think
slowly.
the first 10 issues were unbelievable.
Now
And
we're
then they
talking
started-
the very first Aaron. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Because
God of
this
Thunder.
whole book is an epic.
Right.
You have to consider everything. Even
Yeah,
this
there
new
was
version of
26
Thor,
issues and about 12 of them were good.
I don't know about that at all. It's all part of a
So
larger
you're
story.
saying that you're not excited for War of Realms.
No, somebody could say
Another
that.
event.
Yeah. That's what
But
I'm hearing.
I do agree with you. I was very disappointed by the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I don't like Ed McGuinness at all.
Oh, I love him.
I like
He's
Ed
great.
McGuinness, but I think I
Great
had
guy,
high,
too.
I think I had high hopes. It seemed almost unrealistic with Avengers, I guess, because it's okay. It's a fine book.
Yeah.
It's not anything. It's
Right.
not top of the read pile for
It-
me. I'll tell you that.
To me, it got too political too quick.
Well,
And I
Black
was like-
Panther, that stuff.
No, Jason Aaron's, where they're like, we're going to fight the Russian team and blah, blah, blah. And
Oh, that
Russia,
didn't bother me.
Russia's
I think that's
bad,
just.
and
I
this
think
is-
that's his. I didn't get to talk about that issue you're mentioning with the Winter Guard, but I feel like that was just his love of those characters, and he's trying to introduce, he's trying to polish a turd. Like you got these
Yeah.
shitty characters, he's gonna bring them back and make them actually relevant, which is awesome. When they were talking about the one character, you're like, I don't know who this is, and then it's Grizzly. It's
Yeah.
a fucking grizzly bear. It's like,
That
holy
was
shit,
cool.
this is awesome. I'm into that.
all right. So with everything getting bought up, all the
properties.
independent books, all the properties getting bought up,
Always.
do you think that it's a help or a hindrance to the industry saying that they're going to take creators away from the industry to be on?
I don't know that it's really worked though. Like Brian K. Vaughan is a great example. Ed Brubaker is another one. They've done plenty of TVs and movies, TV shows and movies, you know. And I don't know that their work in comics has suffered for it. You see less of it, but it's still there.
That's what, yeah, but you look at a Remender or Fraction is probably a great answer
fuck,
for he
dude, Fraction
completely
kissed my ass.
disappeared. He's gone from comics
Yeah,
now.
I
because
thought
he's
he
got
died at
television
one
deal.
point.
Yeah,
You know?
Never good for him.
every once in a while, Sex Criminals
No.
comes out, and it is good. I get it. Obviously,
Is
if you're
it?
into movies and
Talking about
TVs,
hipster
well,
books,
no, I
come
mean
on.
if you're talking about movies and TVs,
Well, it's
obviously
also
they
not
make a
hipster
lot
goals,
more.
it's money goals.
Yeah,
So-
they make a lot more
Sure.
money doing
I mean,
those
that's
things.
the point, I guess, but
That's the goal. So I think to an extent it's more negative because we're finding, especially with indie, is that there are people who are going in not for the love of comics, more as seeing it a cheap way to option.
And that's what I was
or
saying
get-
about these books are
Right.
screenplays
Then-
and storyboards for the event.
Yeah, they don't care about actual comics.
But
They
there
want
are
to use it
people
as
that
a.
do. You know, there
That's
are
true.
people that have the genuine love. I could say Cates is one of those people.
Right.
Because Redneck and God
And now he's
Country are
writing
amazing.
God Country within like 6 months of him joining Marvel. Basically.
Right, but now do you think that's going to hurt his books?
Probably. He's
Most
probably going to have to
likely.
take a step
It
back,
seems-
or it's going to be. I bet you that's what happened to Marvel Knights.
So it's a hindrance.
It
for the
seems like
industry.
very few. I haven't seen any writers yet, as far as I know, that seem to be involved with TV or movies and are able to keep a consistent
No.
schedule.
I thought it was Brian K. Vaughan
Brian K.
until he
Vaughan.
put his stop on
Greg
Saga.
Rucka is another.
Yeah, but that was more for Fiona Staples.
Yeah.
That wasn't him.
And that was
And
just
especially because if you read those letter pages, you know that they take breaks.
right.
Paper Girls is another one. I was actually pulling them out as two of my favorite books of the year because I mean he's still a consistent creator and he tells you up front. He's like, all right, this is how it's going to
He's
be.
like,
This
"I
is
got
the
stuff
schedule.
going on,
And I'd
yeah.
much prefer that than the bullshit
least
of
you
like,
know.
oh, we're gonna have 8 months between issues. Fuck you, sex criminals. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Greg Rucka is another one who has
Oh,
basically
yeah, come
completely
on.
disappeared because he's got Amazon.
Yeah,
offering him
Lazarus.
money
Are we
for
ever gonna
Lazarus.
see
Yeah.
it finish?
No,
Come on.
that's going straight to Amazon.
And then,
He's
well,
done
he
with
also
that book.
writes novels, so he has
Right,
like,
that's
Yeah,
where he
that's
came
true.
from.
But that's still it's almost the same thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
guarantee
is-
you he's not writing the novels anymore.
let's be for real. Is Greg Rucka going away really a big deal?
I like his
No,
writing.
He's okay to me.
He's good.
I like
him.
Lazarus a lot, but everything else
I
he's
like
done
his
is
world
like,
building.
eh.
But that's the whole thing. So that's what it is.
But he's a novelist, so his world building is great.
right.
And the interactions, or
I'm sure
the storyboarded comic
I'm
might
sure
not be
Hickman
great,
is the
yeah.
same exact way. Guarantee you Hickman because
Yo,
he's
Hickman's
kind of gone
probably
in and
burned
out.
on comics.
I don't know what.
Yeah,
he
what the
wrote
hell
his
happened to-
Fucking epics.
is he dead? Well, I don't know.
He probably took a break. You know how
No, he's
involved those
writing
books
some
had to be?
secret movie that's gonna watch. He's gonna be like, oh yeah, you know the new Avengers movie, I wrote that. And you're gonna be like, okay,
Cool.
well that makes sense why you. Been
No, I
gone.
feel like he's a Nolan kind of person.
All right.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Couple of quick ones. Most important news of the year.
Most important news of the year. Well, Stanley's death. if you
Well,
consider
that's
that
yeah,
to
but
be
that's
a
news.
given.
that was the hypest. That might not necessarily be the most.
I would
important.
say Fox finally relenting and Marvel buying those rights.
Oh yeah, that's gotta
to
be. That's gotta be the
FF and
top.
X-Men because that's going to affect so many different things. We're going to see such a trickle down now. I mean, as if there weren't enough X-Men titles before.
Did that go through yet though?
January, I think it's official.
I think it's
Okay.
still going.
It's
through
hard to
some
say
government
because
stuff,
it's been
yeah.
such a fucking trap. Like every week you hear something different. But I think that's the official word. January is when it fully goes into effect.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Luke because I can't think of anything that could be potentially as monumental as that announcement because it's bringing everything under one house. And yeah, like you had said,
Sorta.
almost
I
like
think there's
the,
a few characters that aren't, which are
Yeah, it's- but
oddballs.
it's like-
They're owned by like Universal
Something
because
stupid.
it's
Like,
Hulk
it's like
and
Man Thing.
Namor and Man
yeah,
Thing.
Yeah,
like
it's
weird.
dumb.
Well, almost all of them.
Well,
Then 99.
after they have this, they'll have everybody. It doesn't
right.
matter.
The other characters, not so much.
Right.
So yeah, I can't because now the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
for 'em.
come
They
on.
can do whatever they
When
want.
they introduce Reed Richards into the to the
I'm saying,
yeah,
end
exactly.
of an Endgame, it's gotta be. I was hoping for the end of Infinity War where they were gonna have like the FF come save the day
Yeah.
or something, but they couldn't get it in time. So Endgame.
I mean,
we're gonna see
Endgame
Baxter
also wrapped
building
up
and-
like a year ago.
I would
didn't it?
love
So
for
they
them
weren't
to
even owned
do-
by it by
I think
then.
they're still doing stuff.
I would
with
love
it.
for them to do something super cool like that, but I also get the feeling that they're not, and it's just going to be like we're
'Cause
doing a
they're not
Fantastic
ready.
Four movie.
Yeah,
and we'll
how
be like,
hot would
why
it be?
Wouldn't you put it
See
in a
Johnny in the
teaser?
sky with the four symbol.
Right.
No, if it ended and it was like, oh, we finally defeat Thanos, and they were like, oh, you thought you did, but it was really me, and it was Reed Richards, but the evil Reed
No,
Richards.
it's too complicated.
Dude, how sweet would that be?
Come on, I don't want to see that.
Did
Right.
anybody say fantastic? It's just like the four of them standing there. I'm like,
It's
oh wow,
clever.
yeah.
No, that would be sweet if they were in the end. They were like, oh, we need help or something, and then you just see the fiery
That's
four
what
in
I'm
the
saying.
sky.
Like
Yeah.
So
something
I would,
like that.
I would lose my shit. All right, Kates or King
Oh God.
this
Don't-
year. This
Don't
year.
make me choose between my
This
children
year.
because I can't.
This year,
You can't do that.
I will have to go with King. I feel like
Really?
Kate's I really
I was
like,
gonna go
but
the other way.
King also
Tell-
has a
tell us
lot.
why.
King also has a lot more work that has been done. I feel like this year as opposed to Kate's.
No, all right. So
King
Mr.
did, like,
Miracle,
King
triple the
Batman.
has
amount.
and Batman.
You think so? I would argue the other
Well,
way.
Batman's was on
Batman is
bi-weekly.
bi-weekly,
Sure. Okay.
and he did Mr.
That's
Miracle.
fine.
Him, Mr.
But
Miracle.
that's it. You
And he
got
did the Swamp
Cates.
Thing special.
Cates, you got Venom, you got Death of Inhumans,
It's
you got
true.
Marvel Knights, you got Redneck, which he's done still.
Right.
There's
Okay.
so much that Cates has
So
been doing.
Death of
so I think he's
Inhumans was
bringing-
5 issues.
Yeah, it's fine.
Marvel Knights is going to be 5 issues.
Okay, but he's
He
barely
does
doing
Redneck.
it.
He does Venom, which is 9.
He's
But
got
there was
Guardians
also
coming up. Like, he had to write
yeah, that's
that.
next year.
I'm just
See,
saying.
There was
I-
also 60 something issues of Batman.
Mine was easy.
So King beats him in
Yeah,
Batman.
But I'm
alone.
saying, all right. But what I'm saying is, King was focusing on one or two things.
Right.
where Cates
I'm
was
being
all
devil's
over.
advocate.
Well, my whole thing was mine was easy because one of them, obviously King, is one of my top books, and Cates is nowhere on my list.
Right.
So, and while
Okay.
I enjoy
That's
every
interesting.
Cates book
I'm
that I
surprised
basically
to hear
read,
you say that because you got me into one of them. I mean, come on.
well, no, I'm not saying anything against it. I love like all his books, but I don't think any of his all
Doesn't
his
have the
books have
staying
been
power?
good. But yeah, for me, it hasn't had the staying power or like almost that. I don't want to say star power, but like just that kind of like punch.
But you
like
love
Cates-
Batman. Both
I
you
am-
guys love Batman.
Right,
But
yeah,
no-
that's what I'm
so
saying,
much. You
yeah.
got
Not
such a
me.
hard
I
on.
hate on Batman all the
Really?
time. I'm
he
like
definitely
50-50
is
on
like, yeah.
My thing about Cates is his long running books. I do not care for.
I like Venom.
I don't. Well, that's only 9
You're
issues.
talking about
Redneck.
You're not into
See, I
it
like
anymore?
Baby Teeth.
Well,
I never read
Uh,
that,
dude,
That's
like,
one of the
give me
few
a
I ever
break.
read. I just feel like
I-
he's a nice new voice at Marvel,
Oh,
which they
sure.
need.
Yeah.
So if you take it
don't
in
take
that
it away.
respect,
I think he's great. I think he's a great writer. He's
Yeah, definitely.
smart.
Yeah.
He does his research, which is
oh, he's
'Cause
super
he'll-
nerdy. Come
yeah,
on, look
dude,
at the
you-
Venom.
yeah,
Come
yeah.
on, look at that.
so.
shit.
Yeah, you were on that one where
Yeah.
Wolverine didn't pop his
Yeah,
claws.
right?
He was like that
Totally.
nerdy to know
Yeah.
that. So, but I think just the amount of work it's.
And here's the
King.
all right. So about King, I mean, you readers or listeners might know this
Yeah.
because I've definitely said this before. Where I'm a convert to Batman. I didn't read the first issues. I'm going through it now. I read the first trade. I love it. I've read it since issue 50, and I'm in. Like I've read Mr. Miracle, all of it.
See, but there you go. It's hard for you then for
Yeah, I
that question
can't-
because you
right.
basically haven't read a bulk
so
of his work
me,
this
I'm
year.
more
Right.
Cates
Yeah.
because I've read all his stuff versus
Right.
King.
That's
All
I
right,
haven't.
well,
okay.
King and Cates, that's fine. I'm gonna.
There's still,
Have
I
seen.
mean,
Yeah.
we can all agree that they're the top.
They're both.
creators
They're
of the
definitely
year,
the top.
right?
So
They're the top two right
Yes.
now, I think, in Marvel and DC,
yeah,
respectively.
the way that the industry is going now for next year, you think it's going to go positively again, or do you think there's going to be a crash? Like, not as bad as the '90s, obviously, but do you
No.
think there has to be a point when the industry crashes? And do you see it coming in this year?
Not yet.
I don't see it coming in this year. I do see it potentially coming soon. And if I had to blame anyone, and I'm
It
not
would
a
be
Marvel
Marvel.
hater,
Marvel's
it's probably
movies,
Marvel.
But
No,
dude,
just the way they
No,
do their books.
Marvel's
are
comics,
variants.
not the
Right.
movies.
It's just a variance.
Yeah,
it's
they
just that they're
oh, the
very,
variants are
very
killing it.
gimmicky
Yeah,
with
they're
the way
90s.
that they do
number
stuff.
ones, number
I
ones,
hate
number
it.
ones.
Number
I'm
ones
not a
all the
variant
time.
person at
You got to
all.
get 1,000 copies to get the one. Everybody's get 1,000. So it's very easy for them to have like the market share and say, "Hey, we have the most books sold," because you basically force a
Yeah,
lot of stores
bullshit.
into getting them.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's
DC,
shitty. That's inflated numbers.
yeah,
I don't
DC,
like, that
like
at all.
Batman Damn, for instance. You know what? It was a good selling book, number one, obviously. We bumped up our orders, but we weren't getting like 1,000 copies
you
like
didn't
we
have
would like a
to.
Marvel book.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we bumped
And you
it
know
up
what?
by like 50.
And we sold out of them, and you're satisfied with that.
Yeah,
That's what it
To
because
is.
where we have 3,000
We're
copies of
literally
Venom
looking
right
at,
here.
Yeah, like cases and cases of Marvel books. That's mostly Marvel. Black
The,
Panther, Venom, yeah. Deadpool's in there, I know. Death of Wolverine. Avengers, what's that?
The th-
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, the thing
Yeah.
about the Marvel books is you'll have somebody that wants the 1 in 1,000, you sell it to them, and then you have 999 copies that no one wants.
Nobody wants.
So their numbers are there. They sold them. We
doesn't
didn't
mean
sell
people
them.
are reading them.
Right. So that coupled with the fact they're not fostering talent as well as they should be,
They're
is
definitely
a problem
not.
for
Oh,
Marvel.
only in the big
But
two.
again, with the movies, I feel like they're safe. And when
Well,
those
yeah,
movies
for the
start
movies,
tanking,
yeah.
so what
I think-
happens in Avengers when the OGs leave? If that's
I
the
think we're
theory?
going to see a turn. My theory, if we're talking about
It's
the
a
movies,
weird year in this.
is because I haven't seen it, but I'm hearing that Aquaman is like a very
looks
weird
fun.
and fun movie.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Like more in vein with like Wonder Woman in terms of scale of how good it is.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start
Yeah.
seeing a shift where DC movies are just gonna start getting fucking weird, and then people are gonna be like, "Oh, this is what they want. They don't want the formulaic Marvel movies."
Yeah, that's what people were comparing Aquaman to Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
How
Yeah.
it was just fucking fun.
Yeah.
You go in, and the movies, like I sat down and watched Thor Ragnarok. I felt like I was sitting there for like 5 minutes and it was over, and I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, that's it.
It's a solid
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the best they've done.
So yeah, I do think we're Marvel in general more so. I think we're gonna see a bit of a burnout, and I think you're right. I think part of it
Is
might
it
have to do
fatigue?
with fatigue. Might be good.
It could
but
be, though,
DC
but,
might escape that because of the way their movies haven't been coming out as much, and they haven't been as well received.
But escape it. I want them to keep doing good movies. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, what if the
But you
Aquaman
eventually-
and Shazam are the good ones, and then they fuck up again?
Jesus, Shazam
Right.
looks good too.
Yeah.
But I mean, with Marvel, eventually, there's just so fucking many.
I feel like
But
eventually
the-
they're gonna hit a wall.
I mean, we think that, but it hasn't happened yet.
But there's been a lot of terrible Marvel movies that get
But
glossed over.
To your point, though, Lou, I think exactly what you said is going to happen, where they're going to get rid of a lot of the original
Right,
people,
and then they're going to
I
be like
think
relying on Captain Marvel
Yeah.
and Spidey and like.
It's-
Or
Doctor
they'll have
Strange.
people slide in.
it's a ton. Well, that's the thing. They could, if they
I think
misstep,
there's-
they could completely fuck everything
We can
up.
talk again after Avengers Endgame comes
Right.
out. I think.
But
that's
if they
gonna
do
be the
something like they
test.
recast or something like
I don't
that,
think it's gonna happen.
I don't know.
I think they're just.
Or
gonna
they
get
do
rid
Well,
of
like a
eventually the people are
re-
going to get too old to.
Well, they are. They're way too
Right.
old. So we'll see.
Well, they're saying
So,
John Cena might be recasted as Captain America.
Stop.
So that's what
So-
yeah.
You can't
It's
see
funny
me, America.
that Lou talked about this earlier, but with the rise of good team books coming out, Justice League, I don't care for Avengers, it sells well.
Yeah.
How do they fix the X-Men?
They have to. They've
Because
tried.
that book is garbage.
I'm gonna try to help here
Go,
because one of my favorite books this year was Extermination #1. It started off strong.
Well, that's
It's-
number 4.
I know. I said #1. Anyway, it was such a fun X-Men story. Solid art, solid story. Ed Brisson writing it. So based on the fact that he wrote it, I was like, cool. Uncanny's going to be good.
Right.
But it's kind of a mishmash because you got 3 writers. And I'm worried because is this it? I heard this is going to be akin to Avengers Disassembled. So after Uncanny, maybe we're going to see some new shit. Some new creators coming on and doing some solid stuff. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna after this miniseries. I don't know what's gonna happen.
I think part of it with it, at least with the comics, is I'm like that conspiracy theorist where I do think that Marvel knows, much like Spider-Man, the X-Men's going to sell no matter what. There's people who collect it.
Sure.
It doesn't really matter. Obviously, if it's good, you're going to sell more. But at the end, you have a baseline that is never going to falter.
That's
The
the one comic I've ever collected was Spider-Man, and at a point I didn't read it for like 6 years.
There's plenty of people who
So,
do that
yeah.
stuff here.
Yeah, it's
so
the character you go for.
Right,
And I do
so-
that too. There's definitely books that I read. I'm like, cool,
But
I love this character.
I want the
but-
X-Men to be good. How
So
do
do
they
I.
fix it?
Well, they're going to do it now that they have more money
Right.
invested into it, and I think that was the whole thing.
They
I
had to
think that
wait till they got the rights.
put whoever wanted, or they wanted people
That's
to do
what it
whatever they
matters.
wanted.
We're gonna see a
because
shift.
they knew it was going to sell, and they didn't want to push it.
They're
that much.
setting up.
Do you
like,
think that they need to go back to the original team and people are fatigued about the original team so they introduce the new guys, or do you think the new teams or new characters are like
No.
a hindrance to the story?
I think you have so many X-Men characters. Work with what you got. That's the test of a true writer. If you can work with what you got and make it good, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and
right, but
I
are you
work-
saying the
introducing-
original 5, or are you
No.
saying like
That
Glob
ship
And
is
by
bad.
work with
blah,
what you
blah,
got,
blah.
you have like 1,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
it
Is
should
there,
be
is
like,
there
yeah.
too many for people to care about?
Yeah, and that's why you got to focus on a core team. Like Astonishing X-Men was awesome. That was such a good introduction to X-Men. You know what I mean? Had a
Right.
solid team
Yeah.
of past characters, new characters. You had Armor in there as the new voice of the team, so you could see what was going on. That was solid. New X-Men with Grant Morrison. You take somebody that's like really.
Oh,
out
you're
there.
talking about back in the day.
Right, I'm
I
trying
thought
to
you were
say,
talking
like-
about the current Astonishing X-Men.
No.
I was like,
no.
I was
That
like, Armor?
No, it was still fine. That Astonishing run. I hate Greg Land, but that last arc was good with Havoc and everybody. Anyway, regardless, you need somebody that hasn't hit yet, maybe, or just a solid creator that likes the X-Men. You got to have a writer that likes the X-Men. I think Rosenberg, and he showed us from the Multiple Man miniseries, he's writing part of Uncanny.
Right.
I think he might take a book himself. I could see that
It's-
happen.
I could see it.
see all
I
these
think
writers
all those
splitting
people that are
up.
involved
They're
are
all going to
doing
get their own
different
thing.
books. I
If you
agree.
read Uncanny, you can see that there's the young team.
Right.
You can see that there's Bishop's team and all those guys. I think everybody's going to take their own team at the end of this, and they're going to do
And
their
then
own thing
do what
with
they
it.
want.
You need solid art too. That X-Men has been known for crafting amazing artists. Silvestri,
Yeah.
Jim Lee. Look at all these. Joe Madureira back in the day. I mean, Ed McGuinness did a bit. There's so many great artists.
What do you think, Frank? What do you think they need to do?
I think really it kind of goes back to Marvel not cultivating talent. I think they're kind of starting to hit a dry spell right now where there's not that many good writers. They don't have that many artists anymore. The artists that they're doing are moving on. They're only doing covers. They don't want to do interiors because the money's better. Whatever it may be, I think that's part of it. So you only have so many people in-house that you can hire,
Yeah.
and you got to spread it out their whole line. And let's face it, their line has like 50 titles. So you know
see
what I
Ed
mean? It's
Brisson
not
writing
like
10 books.
exactly. So you have, and that my whole thing has always been like, you see these guys writing a lot of books, and they're good, but how much of it is draining them? So if they could be,
Yeah, you're killing it.
what if one of these guys who writes 5 titles, it only wrote 1?
That'd be amazing.
Would that
One-
mean like that book is going to be knocked
And
out?
what I like to see is different artists and writers doing different books. Like Cates,
Right.
you got Venom, and now you got Guardians.
Yeah.
Totally different kind of books. I
Yeah, it's
like
cool.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
Don't do a couple in the same universe.
Speaking of Cates and
trust.
King, who we've talked about,
Yeah.
who you've known, obviously 2 great writers this year. Who was a writer that came out this year, or is a writer that you weren't too familiar with or didn't really care about before this year started?
Sean motherfucking Murphy, because he's an
motherfucking
artist. But come on, tell me we weren't all amazed at his writing chops too. This guy writing White Knight, holy shit! I mean, we all knew it looked pretty, but it was a fantastic story too.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that because anytime an artist is the writer too, I'm like, ugh, this is gonna
Right,
be
you're
so
like, come
bad.
on.
I don't want to read it. They're just doing it to placate this dude. But
Yeah,
he
that's
was
true too. The
solid.
first few times we read this book, I was like, oh, all right, Sean Murphy, our writer, Matt Hollandsworth, artist. And then,
That's
like,
what you
even,
thought.
even Kyle was like, oh, dude, he did both.
Yeah, he
and I
did.
was like, oh.
Yeah,
That's what I
Well-
mean. That makes him an even stronger writer, right?
But I mean, he had already written, didn't he write Chrononauts, or was that Mark Miller?
No,
No, that
he
was
was
Mark
the
Miller.
artist.
He was the artist, yeah.
No, the last thing that he had done that I remembered where he did both was he did. Oh no, that was with. I think that was with Grant Morrison. That Vertigo book with the kid with the inhaler. I don't know if you guys read it. Where he like saw the toys and they came alive.
Oh yeah, no, I read
forget
that.
it was
I know what you're
called.
talking
Okay,
about.
so he
Yeah,
was
I
the
can't
artist.
remember
What
that.
the
Yep.
hell? I could have sworn there was another thing that he did both, but I can't recall.
I don't
off
know.
the
I
top
don't
of
remember
my
him
head.
ever doing writer artist,
But
especially
clearly he
something this
can.
scale. That was great.
That's one of those things where I feel like everybody's got that one story. I think that's his story.
That's
and
his
he's
story.
able
Yeah, but he's
to-
got that
yeah.
trilogy.
So what do
with
you
it,
what do you
exactly.
got? Well, I mean,
Um,
let's wait till the second part comes out. Might be butt.
Yeah.
it could be. I
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you.
I'll fill in with Frank.
mean, I
My
would-
guy that I didn't really
yeah.
know was Al Ewing.
Okay.
That writes
okay.
the Immortal Hulk,
Yeah.
and it was forget about it.
Right.
I'm
I
going
don't know
through
what
it
he did
now.
before
I
that.
love it. It's awesome.
All
Straight
right.
horror book. What about? I mean, he's been around for a bit. Jeff Lemire.
Yeah, he's been around.
He's been around for a long
Yeah,
time.
he's kind of
so-
coming.
He didn't have any
this
breakout
year, though,
anything this
yeah.
year. I felt his best book was Sweet Tooth, and that was like his first book
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
I
that was
remember.
like years ago.
Me and Frank were also speaking about to this today. How do you greet people during the holiday? And do you feel that some greetings are too aggressive?
This was one of my
Wow.
things. 'cause
Wait,
I'm
are we
like,
talking about comics now? What
I'm like
happened?
hypersensitive.
No, this is a
What's
fun,
going
this,
on?
this is just a funny little
I'm like,
bit.
yeah,
This got weird.
hypersensitive to weird
So,
things like that. Like
well, me and
social
Frank
things.
talked about it, and we both agreed. Well, ask Lou. Do you
Yeah.
feel that saying people forcefully saying like "Merry Christmas" is aggressive?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you
Yeah,
like,
sure.
like
when you're like at Walmart.
Yeah, just say Happy Holidays, dude.
okay,
Keep it
yeah,
simple.
they cover
That's
it
you
all,
gotta
right?
do.
Or say bye.
Right.
Thanks
Yeah,
for coming.
That's all I say.
Right.
Say Happy Holidays.
Yeah.
My
now.
whole thing was,
You gotta
do
be
you
safe.
find that? Yeah, like
Once it blew up, and
Right.
people are like, "Oh,
it's
no."
definitely a
And they're
choice
like,
now.
I'll fucking say Merry Christmas if I want
Right,
to.
it's a very active choice.
Are we gonna get
It's
political?
very
Do we want to say
aggressive.
why we're saying
No,
Merry
not
Christmas? 'Cause,
political.
like,
no,
I
no.
mean,
It's
like-
just saying
I'm just saying. Like,
Happy
there's a
Holidays
reason why.
is
yeah.
acceptable.
It's fine.
And do you feel
great.
when people are like Merry Christmas, or you're like, whoa, chill?
All right, we
You're
get
like,
it.
that's a little weird.
Yeah.
I celebrate Christmas. I don't have to shove down people's throats.
No, yeah. Like I celebrate Christmas, and I've been in a church once, and my mom died.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from
Jeez,
me?
wow. It got dark.
So-
Alright, sorry.
You know. And
I mean, for
all right,
instance,
so
on GeekBoyPress.com,
There
I
you
celebrate
go.
the 12 days of Geekmas.
There you go.
There's nothing
And,
connotating that, so.
so without further ado, Frank, favorite book of the year. Favorite DC book
Oh,
of the year.
shit.
Favorite DC book of the year. I only did 3. Are we doing
Yeah,
multiple?
no, we're doing
Lou's
three.
got,
No, I got
Lou has
stacks,
way too
but-
many.
Lou's got like
I
10
couldn't
books in front
decide.
of him.
Yeah,
He couldn't
we're
decide. All right.
we're probably getting up to
Doesn't
the
matter.
time limit we want to do. So,
So
It's
mine
fine, do it
was
quick.
the thing is
oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. It's a it's your favorite, and then like a runner up.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing runner-ups. Mine was, so DC was a hard one. Out of probably the three, it was maybe the hardest. Next in line was
I
probably
agree.
Indy for me. In terms of consistency, I chose Batman because while
Total
I
Batman.
really
Okay.
loved Mr. Miracle, for one thing, I didn't think it was all of 2018.
It was.
I don't think. Oh, it was.
It was.
Okay. Batman for me though was always top of the read pile. It did ship bi-weekly, so it was very consistent in my eyes, and it was just really enjoyable. I really liked everything about it. I like the rotating artists.
It's getting
a
to
lot
be
of
that way
times.
for me.
Yeah.
All right, so
I'm
would
drinking
you
the Kool-Aid.
would you say that your
Oh,
backup
runner-up
would be
is
Mr.
probably
Miracle?
going to be Mr. Miracle
Yeah.
then, if we were choosing one.
Lou,
right
your
now.
And I
favorite
got
DC
White
book?
Knight because I have such a Batman
Yeah.
White Knight.
White Knight
because-
Is your-
probably
is
be
your
number 3
favorite
for
book?
me.
for DC.
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
what-
I mean it's a toss up between
gonna
Mr.
do
Miracle.
DC and Marvel.
Sure. No, I mean Mr. Miracle was amazing. I love it, but for something about the nostalgia of Batman the Animated Series, like Sean Murphy captured those characters, and I loved it so much. It was so much fun. I mean, to not be weighed down by continuity, it was such a great book. You know, I really
So
enjoyed it.
your favorite
overall.
is White
Batman
Knight,
White Knight. It's
and then
gotta be, yeah.
backup is
Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle.
For sure, yeah.
My personal favorite and maybe favorite comic of all time, right up there with Vision and Swamp Thing, was Mr. Miracle.
All right. I mean,
Start to finish.
It's a
Okay.
hard
There
one,
was
yeah.
what
don't
I
blame
think you were on the one episode where the issue was like wasn't good, and I was like, oh no.
There was
It
one
was like
where you
issue
were
5 or
like,
6,
I
and I
don't
was like,
know. Yeah.
yeah. And then the next one, I was like, pfft,
Yeah,
just
come
forget
on.
about it.
So what's
No.
your runner-up?
And then my runner-up is Deathbed.
See,
Oh,
again, that's a
okay.
hard book because it was so hard for people to get that book.
Plus,
You
it was
get a lot
very
of
good.
copies. I only read the first 2 issues. It was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
Dude, the
I
art
can't
is
give
ins-
it art.
the
book
art
of
is
the year,
insane,
though.
but
no, it's
it's just-
great.
I mean, not book of the year. It's my second favorite DC book.
All right.
We can disagree.
Yeah,
it's
That's
okay.
fine.
You can
That's what it's
disagree.
all about.
All right, Marvel.
Marvel. Okay, so Marvel was
This
a
is
little
hard.
cut
even know.
and dry for me. I will say runners up were both Kate's, and it was the Thanos,
Right.
and I actually really liked the Ghost Rider. But once again, thinking about consistency and things that were always at the top of the read, like this was one, much like Batman, where I pretty much read it as soon as we unbox it. I don't even like take it home to read, and it's Darth Vader.
Wow.
Darth
Vader
there it
is
is.
That's a
really
good.
good. I basically have had no problems with it whatsoever, and most of the issues I'm like, this is like
And
the best
another
issue.
writer
To the point where
well,
we
clearly the
retired
one
it
is
from the
issue of the
podcast.
year. Yeah.
yeah,
But
Clearly.
he
clearly
that's weird because that's another Marvel writer that writes a bunch of books.
yeah.
Charles Soule.
But that
Soule,
one
shout
is
out.
like so fucking
Right,
good.
Charles Soule beat out Donny Cates for me. I know it's crazy.
Which is
I
surprising.
actually, I had a little difficulty, but
And especially a character like that, like Vader, you think you
you
know
would think
it
it'd
all.
be done.
And you're like, whatever, it's
He
Vader, same
rips a
old
portal
shit.
in the hell with the Force. Like, give me a break. That's
Right, yeah.
fucking
I'm
rad.
saying,
It's
like,
cool.
He's doing some great shit. I love that.
Yeah.
Lou,
book.
what do
That's
you
a
got?
great
Because you got
idea.
10 books in front of you.
I just brought some because I wasn't sure what I was gonna pick. I'm gonna say Thor. Thor has
Thor,
been
okay.
since the beginning.
With Del Mondo, the Jason.
But I gotta treat it as an epic. I
Ah,
gotta treat
you're
it
talking
as
about
some
not the
Aaron
real,
as the
not the
beginning.
number one. Okay.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have a lot of books that I really enjoyed. FF.
Damn,
number
I
one
love
was
Del Mondo
fun.
too.
Two
though.
Cates books there.
Yeah, I mean, Thanos was great, but again, I didn't read it when it came out. I got it because you
Right.
guys told me to. Fantastic. Death of Inhumans, another great book.
Do you feel that
Um,
Thanos read better as reading it as his trade?
It was
Or reading
awesome
it
because I
together,
read it all
'cause,
in
like,
one shot.
Yeah.
Right, because you just.
I'll never have that where you guys had it where you read it.
Right,
like,
individually.
See, I
Like,
felt I think that reading him individually was like a hindrance.
Yeah, I think as a trade, it probably.
It was
would've
sweet.
been
It was
awesome.
great, like all in one
Yeah.
shot. Again, I'm gonna go back to Extermination for a minute because this is the X-Men stuff I love.
That's your runner-up then.
I mean, it's hard to say because it didn't even finish yet. It could totally crap out.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too.
You know
With
what I mean?
Fantastic Four, how can you do when there's been 5 issues out
I
for
know,
2018?
but it was a fun start, and I like Slot a lot. But again, Thor's got to be my pick. With probably the second one, I don't know. I think because of my love for X-Men, I'm gonna say
You gotta go.
Extermination.
All
I don't
right,
know. It's
all
not
right.
a popular choice, but
No,
No,
it's
it's fine.
yours,
It's your
though.
choice.
Yeah,
that's
that's
all
right.
that. My favorite, my personal Marvel favorite was the Immortal Hulk
Okay, all right.
because,
yeah,
like
all
you're
right.
saying, never heard of Al
Shocking.
Ewing again,
Right.
or before.
Maybe
I'll
you
hear
can,
of him
we don't
again.
know.
And the premise of this book, they came out, and I was like, that's gonna be the worst fucking book I've ever read in my
Right,
entire
yeah.
life. And
And
I read
on
it, and I was
the
just like, yo,
Fucking
yo,
sweet.
to where it's the first book I read, and then the second book I read is my runner-up, which is Darth Vader.
Yeah, I mean,
Darth
Because,
Vader,
dude,
there you go.
I don't give a shit about Star Wars, but I care so fucking much about Darth Vader right
he's
now.
hard as fuck in
Yeah,
that
it's
book.
Dude,
real
and it
metal.
has-
It's really metal.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
metal as fuck.
Dude.
He's like, I control this lava, this volcano, and I'm ripping a portal to hell with the force. And I was like, what am I reading? And then even in that, excuse me, that arc, the
Tarkin issue.
the Tarkin issue,
yeah.
forget about it.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, you know who's hard as shit? Darth Vader. You know who's hard as shit? Tarkin, because he's just a dude.
Yeah, he's just a
You
dude.
know?
Yeah, he's just a guy. That's all he is.
And then
He's a
when
guy with, like, a
when
pistol.
and then it makes even the original movies cooler because as soon as Tarkin says something, Darth Vader's like, "Don't fuck with me again," and he starts joking him
Yeah.
because Tarkin would whoop his fucking ass.
Right, yeah.
So it had added something to a 40-year-old movie.
That's
or
the thing, to
whatever.
keep those books fresh and that idea fresh. Like Star Wars, I still read, but I phone it in. I'm like,
Star
whatever,
Wars
I
is
don't care
very
anymore.
iffy.
But
Yeah.
Vader every month. I'm
Ripping
like,
a portal
wow.
into hell with hate.
Yeah, to try and
It's like-
find your dead wife.
Like, forget about
Right?
it.
What about when he burned the ship?
Dude,
Yeah,
yeah,
It's like
the
his ship is a
was cool.
reflection of
Yeah.
me now.
Yeah, I was like, I don't
Whoa.
give a fuck.
Damn. He's fucking up Jedi left and right. Like he always wins. That's the crazy part. Yeah.
And then, well, it ended out with Indy.
Indy. So this one I feel like is going to be interesting, mainly because for the most part we
It's a hard
don't
one.
we don't cover obviously nearly as
lot,
many
but I
indie
read
books.
a lot of
I
indie,
read
too.
a lot too.
Sure.
So mine were twofold. I guess my runner up would be Uber, which we've talked about briefly before.
Sure.
I think Kyle
Never
has
read it.
kind
We
of
get like
saved-
one issue.
I
it's
never
it's
read it
praises
either.
before. And then my pick, and once again, this is going back. So this is how I thought of it: was like, what is the stuff that I read immediately? What is the thing
Yeah,
that gets
that's-
me
that's what gets
excited?
you,
This
yeah.
is like my favorite. Is a book that we literally get 3 copies of, Birthright.
Oh,
which
nice,
is like
okay.
yeah. If you guys haven't checked it out, get the first volume. It is very cool. It is kind of like a dark version of Never Ending Story. Is I guess the pitch.
I've seen it on the stands, but I never actually read
Right.
it,
So the guy goes to this land, much like Never Ending Story, and he doesn't come out. And then a few years later, he comes back to the real world, and he's like a 35-year-old man, and he's really fucked up, and he's also this really hard warrior that is evil. So check it out. But yeah, that's my first one. Everyone's on their phones as soon as I start talking
No,
about
yeah,
it. So
you just-
it was really, I
I was
sold
checking
it.
a date. I was
Yeah.
checking a date for a book.
Everyone was like,
and I was
cool,
like,
guys.
I think
yeah.
now that you started talking about that, I thought of another book. Came
I
out in
know.
2016.
Ah,
So
shit.
it's
All right, old
definitely
man.
not that one.
Yeah. But
But
they were both continuing series. I didn't do any new ones because I couldn't think of any ones that started. in
Well, I
2016.
mean,
yeah, you.
that's
have
my
all,
runner-up right
yeah.
there.
That's your runner-up?
It is.
All right,
Okay,
go on.
so what's your
Let's hear it.
first?
well, do you want to runner up and then
Yeah,
build up to
go
it? Come on,
for it.
let's do
Okay, all right.
Runner up, Gideon Falls,
All right.
fantastic book from start to finish. It's not done yet, but I mean every issue is scary as fuck. It's so
Yeah.
dark. It's so weird and surreal. And the art is perfectly suited for this book too. I love it. It's fantastic. I can't wait to see more from this. But I can't say that it was an easy read.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like I enjoyed
But I think
it.
the difficulty of it made it like more
More
special.
Yeah,
enjoyable.
like
Yeah.
this will be a book that would sit on my stack for a bit. I'm like, all right, I'll get to it.
Right.
I'll get to it. But once I did read, I'm like, whoa, this is so messed up. I love it. You know, it was really
Yeah.
scary. It's gonna pay off in a couple of rereads too. I feel like as it gets to the finish. But I love it. It's fantastic. But I gotta say my top, and it's an older book at this point, but Saga. Gotta
Nothing
be Saga.
wrong with it.
Saga is hands down the best
Plus,
comic
you got to
out
get
right
it in
now.
because it's going away for like a
It's
year,
That's
right?
wild.
You can
See
look
it
at me and say what you
2019.
want, but it's true. The art, every issue is surprising. It's such an amazing story. I love it. I mean, ever since it started, this is the
It's your
talking
top
about
of the
one of those
read,
books
yeah.
that I can't wait to read. Paper Girls is good too. I enjoy that. Killer Be Killed was a possibility because I like Brubaker. That team is awesome. They always
Oh,
write a
yeah,
nice
for sure.
story. But Saga, every time, like this will be the book. I'm like, oh shit, I can't
That's
wait
how
to
you
go
got to
home
do.
and
Yeah,
read
you
it.
get home and you're
I'm
like, this
oh,
is what
shit,
I'm
it's
doing.
Saga Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
So now it kills me. I have to wait so long to read more. But for this year, yeah.
Yeah, when it
so
comes-
Gideon Falls and Saga.
When it comes back, it's never coming back.
Yeah, don't say
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Don't break my heart.
Yeah.
Morning Glory
Y'all
theme.
thought I was gonna go Gideon Falls as my favorite.
I did
But
think,
Gideon
yeah.
Falls, runner up.
Okay.
Oh,
That's
Great
good.
story. Everything about it's awesome.
Damn.
There's,
what's your...
like,
That's what I can't
I
wait to hear.
and Gideon Falls, always top of the pile.
Okay.
Really?
Unless
So what's the
Okay.
top of the pile?
Dark Arc comes out. Dark Arc is
You do love this book.
amazing.
I don't even know what that
It's-
is.
It's an aftershock
It's,
book. So
it's
you
an
know we get,
aftershock
like,
book,
half
so we
a-
get.
half
That's
a
the problem.
copy.
Is I have to
Copy.
read it in the
Yeah.
store because we get 2 copies.
Okay.
It's set in. Yeah, I'll explain it because none of you have probably read it.
Nope.
Anybody that
I read like
it's
up to,
it's
yeah.
it's Noah's Ark, but they sent out 2 arcs,
Oh.
and the other one is Noah's Ark with all the good stuff, and they sent out another arc with all the bad stuff.
Dark Ark.
And it's fucking crazy.
So like vampires. And
Vampires,
Naga.
Chimera,
Right,
you
yeah.
know, the Nagas, everything. And it ends up that like a little weird twist, what I think is funny too, is that the unicorns are in the bad arc,
Yeah.
which was fun.
Oh,
But then it
that's
ends
funny.
up the dude's a wizard. There's fucking krakens. It's insane.
That does sound cool.
And
but
then
again,
finally in the last issue, they just landed on land, and the land is also bad. So it's like
Awesome.
they went on like a collision course where the arc went around and they hit it to like ruin their lives, I guess. But check out Dark Arc. The trade's out. It's amazing.
Yeah, we'll try and make an effort to get all the trades.
All
of
of
our
the, yeah,
picks.
all of our best picks. We will have the trades in within the next week or two.
Can
Yeah.
I say an honorable mention to Ice Cream Man, another book these boys
Oh,
turned me on
yeah,
to,
that's
and
true.
it is the natural successor to Twilight Zone and
Ice
Black
Cream
Mirror.
Man was just beat out by Gideon Falls. as
So
my
great.
backup.
I look forward to it every month when it comes out now, and it's so bizarre.
Ice
Every
Cre-
issue is different, but
Yeah,
it's still an
that's
overall story.
that's the problem why I didn't put
Yeah,
Ice Cream
it's
Man
like
in
an
there.
anthology.
Is it's an anthology,
Yeah,
Right,
so
yeah.
like
it doesn't have the but it
'Cause
has to
there
have
was,
those
like-
notes of story where you're like, ooh, what's gonna
right.
happen?
Well,
with
the
those
Ice
two
Cream Man
characters
and the
then
other guy are
Western
always in
guy,
it,
yeah.
but yeah, I didn't put it in because there was like one issue where I was like, eh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but you were that with Mr. Miracle, so what's that?
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
That
what I mean?
one
but
issue
one,
where,
Mr. Miracle is one concise story.
Yeah.
If you have like a single episode issues, they all need to be good.
Okay.
So, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Let the merry bells keep ringing.
Merry,
Happy holidays to
you. Wow, I really fucked that one up. Happy holidays, guys.
Peace.
Oh no,
No,
I'm doing
wrong
this
way.
backwards. Oh, I gotta spin it. Okay. All right, this is really taking. What is
That
my
way. No,
password?
this way.
This is the worst
Oh,
ending
try again in
ever.
28
You gotta go that
seconds,
way.
dude. I'm locked out of my phone. Wow, you gotta cut this. I honestly can't do anything. 20 seconds. It won't even take my
Whack, whack,
It
whack.
won't.
whack.
It won't take my fingerprint.
That
No,
way.
I know, but now it's 13 seconds. So we still got some time. We're gonna be posting up the lists of people who have been guests on the podcast, who had at least given us lists.
Yeah,
they will be
Joe
going on the
and,
Facebook.
Bob.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have all of them, but they'll be going up. Bye.